want to refinance at lower rates. An income bond. These bonds only pay interest, but if and only if certain income objectives are met. So the good news is for the issuer, the borrower, that gives them flexibility. They only have to make these periodic payments if they have the income to do so. Now, from the perspective of the bondholder, well, you're taking on more risk because you don't have a fixed rate of return. So that income, if you're projecting that, you're going to expect a pretty high yield, a pretty high percentage of that income to compensate you for taking that risk. We're not going to be dealing with income bonds. You just got to know what they are. Now, we might be dealing with what's called a zero coupon bond, which is synonymous with a deep discount bond. Remember, coupon divided by price, you get your market rate. If the market rate is higher than the coupon, well, then the price in the denominator goes down. Well, here the coupon is zero. There's going to be a market rate of interest, but there's going to be no coupon paid. So the price is going to be way down in that denominator, deep discount bonds. So there's no stated interest. So what's going to happen is those bonds, even though there's no coupon, that doesn't mean it's no cost of borrowing. The market rate is going to dictate, well, given the risk, what's the appropriate yield given the risk on this security. So the bondholders are going to record interest income over the life of the bond. They'll accrue for it, even though they're not going to get the payment until the future. Same thing now, okay? The lender, the bondholder is going to get the interest income. The issuer, the borrower, is going to record interest expense over the life of the bond, even though they're not going to make a coupon payment. And what dictates the interest expense to the borrower and the interest income to the lender? The market rate. So what's going to happen is, to calculate the interest income and the interest expense, we're going to take the carrying value of that liability at the beginning, which is going to be at a deep discount, times the market rate at issuance, probably divided by 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to record interest expense and interest income over the life of the bond, even though no coupon payments are made during the life of the bond. All principal and interest is going to be paid at maturity, okay? And we'll see zero coupon bonds. Now, commodity-backed bonds, also known as what they call asset-linked bonds. These are either redeemable in cash or a stated volume of a commodity, whichever is greater, okay? Just got to know what it is, but that's a commodity-backed bond, commodity-linked, all right? So it's either redeemable, you get cash, or you'll get this commodity, whichever is greater, okay? Whichever is greater. Now, we give you a little comparison, folks, bonds payable versus no. The good news is you can refinance. If you're the issuer, the borrower, and rates have gone down, you can now refinance at today's lower rates, okay? But serial bonds are pre-numbered. The issuer may, they don't have to, call and redeem a portion of those bonds by number. And again, general rule of thumb is the only way the issuer is generally going to want to do that is if rates have gone down, they want to refinance at lower rates. An income bond. That loan, what are they going to take from you? The real estate. So that's secured by real estate. Collateral trust bonds. You see that, you think secured as well. Whenever a loan is secured, that reduces the risk to the lender. So normally the yield on those bonds is a little bit lower. Convertible bonds. Now, whenever you see convertible bonds, earnings per share, that gives the company what? A complex capital structure. That bond could be converted into common stock at the option of the bondholder, okay? So that gives them a complex capital structure. Whenever we see options or warrants, we think complex capital structure. You got to calculate diluted earnings per share, right? Putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Now, warrants can either be detachable or non-detachable. If you see that the warrants are non-detachable, that means if that bondholder wants the stock, that bond has to be converted okay, into common stock. They got to give up the bond, okay? If it's a detachable warrant and the bondholder wants to own stock, the good news is they can keep their bond, get those regular coupon payments, and become a stockholder. But with the warrants, they don't surrender the bond, but the warrants, there's a strike price. There is a certain price the bondholder is going to have to pay for the stock, not the current market price, but whatever the strike, the exercise price is for the warrants. Now, the only way someone's going to exercise those warrants if the stock strike price, let's say, is 10, so long as the stock price goes above 10, that's how that bondholder makes money. The difference, the spread between the market price of the stock and the strike price, okay? But the key is with detachable warrants, the bondholder does not have to give up the bond. They keep the bond, keep getting the coupon payments, but they use the warrant to buy the stock at the strike price. Okay, participating bonds. These bonds are very different in that there's not just a coupon payment with a fixed rate. No, while they have a stated rate of interest, they might also be able to participate in additional income, but if and only if certain earning levels are obtained. Okay, so that's an advantage to the bondholder in that you get your fixed return plus a potential return depending upon earnings. Okay, term bonds are mostly what we're going to deal with. The bonds have a single fixed maturity date. That's primarily what we'll be dealing with, okay? Term bonds. However, there are certain cases like with a mortgage where every payment is not just the coupon payment for interest. No. Generally with mortgages, and we saw this with notes, sometimes every payment is going to be for both principal and interest. And that's customary with mortgages, okay? With bonds, unless you're told otherwise, 100% of the principal is repaid at maturity. The only periodic payments we make during the life of the bond is just for the coupon. Serial bonds, they're pre-numbered, and the issuer has the right to call them back to redeem them by serial number. Now, what's the advantage of having the right to call back bonds early and redeem them? Well, the good news is you can refinance. If you're the issuer, the borrower, and rates have gone down, you can now refinance at today's lower rates. Okay, but serial bonds are pre-numbered. The issuer may, they don't have to, call and redeem a portion of those bonds by number. And again, general rule of thumb is the only way the issuer is generally going to want to do that is if rates have gone down, they want to refinance at lower rates. An income bond. These bonds only pay interest, but if and only if certain income.
Participating bond are the bond that not only have a stated rate of interest but participating income of certain earning level are obtained. Participating certain earning level are obtained in the bond or bond ahead of the single fixed maturity. The maturity is single fixed maturity. Serial bond are the pre-numbered bond that issue may call and redeem portion by serial number. Income bond are the bond only pay interest if certain income is an objective or met. That participating bond are the bond not only have a stated rate of interest but participate in the income in certain earnings level. Terms bond are bond that have single fixed maturity date. Entire principal is paid at the end of the term bond. Single fixed maturity date. One is a single maturity fixed date, and principal is paid end of the term period. Serial bond. Serial bond are the pre-numbered bond that issue may call and redeem portion by serial number. And often redeem to pro rata annually in the serial annual installment. Income bond are bond that only pay interest in certain income objective are met. Zero coupon bond. What is the zero coupon bond? So zero coupon bond are bond sold with no stated interest but rather discount. Income bond are the bond only pay interest if certain income objective are met. Income bond are bond only pay interest in certain income objective are met. Zero coupon bond are bond sold with no stated interest rather than discount and redeem at the face value without the periodic interest payment. Commodity backed bond bond. So a commodity backed bond or bond are redeemable either in a cash and a stated volume of a commodity, whichever is greater. Commodity backed bond. What is a commodity backed bond? Our bond are redeemable either in a cash, stated commodity of stated volume of commodity, and whichever is greater. Okay.
Some objectives are met. So the good news is for the issuer, the borrower, that gives them flexibility. They only have to make these periodic payments if they have the income to do so. Now, from the perspective of the bondholder, well, you're taking on more risk because you don't have a fixed rate of return. So that income, if you're projecting that, you're going to expect a pretty high yield, a pretty high percentage of that income to compensate you for taking that risk. We're not going to be dealing with income bonds. You just got to know what they are. Now, we might be dealing with what's called a zero coupon bond, which is synonymous with a deep discount bond. Remember, coupon divided by price, you get your market rate. If the market rate is higher than the coupon, well, then the price in the denominator goes down. Well, here the coupon is zero. There's going to be a market rate of interest, but there's going to be no coupon paid. So the price is going to be way down in that denominator, deep discount bond. So there's no stated interest. So what's going to happen is those bonds, even though there's no coupon, that doesn't mean it's no cost of borrowing. The market rate is going to dictate, well, given the risk, what's the appropriate yield given the risk on the security. So the bondholders are going to record interest income over the life of the bond. They'll accrue for it even. Even though they're not going to get the payment until the future. Same thing now, okay? The lender, the bondholder is going to get the interest income. The issuer, the borrower is going to record interest expense over the life of the bond, even though they're not going to make a coupon payment. And what dictates the interest expense to the borrower and the interest income to the lender? The market rate. So what's going to happen is to calculate the interest income and the interest expense, we're going to take the carrying value of that liability at the beginning, which is going to be at a deep discount, times the market rate at issuance, probably divided by 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to record interest expense and interest income over the life of the bond, even though no coupon payments are made during the life of the bond. All principal and interest is going to be paid at maturity, okay? And we'll see zero coupon bonds. Now, commodity-backed bonds, also known as what they call asset-linked bonds. These are either redeemable in cash or a stated volume of a commodity, whichever is greater, okay? Just got to know what it is, but that's a commodity-backed bond, commodity-linked, all right? So it's either redeemable, you get cash, or you'll get this commodity, whichever is greater, okay? Whichever is greater. Now, we give you a little comparison, folks, bonds payable versus notes payable. Bonds are more standardized. The terms are more standardized. That allows them to be publicly traded, okay? Notes are customized, privately placed. You've got a borrower who's going to negotiate with various banks and see where they can get the best deal, all right? So you don't have to memorize, but be familiar with some of the conventions for a bond versus a note. Notes are customized, bonds are very standardized. Please notice, payments prior to maturity, all right, with bonds, general rule of thumb, unless you're told otherwise, interest payments are made over the life of the bond, unless it's a zero coupon bond, and then at maturity, we pay all the principal, unless it's a zero coupon bond, okay? With notes, every payment could either be principal and interest, all right? Kind of like on a mortgage, when you buy a house, right? You borrow money and you sign a promissory note. Every monthly payment is generally for principal and interest, or it could be like a zero coupon bond and nothing is paid until maturity. Or you might even have examples where you're making periodic interest payments over the life of the note, and then 100% of the principal is repaid at maturity, like a typical bond, okay? So again, it's negotiated. You can set it up any way you want, private agreement between the borrower and the lender. All right, good stuff, brief introduction. Keep with me, man. There's not enough to work questions. Let's watch that next video. Come on, we're on a roll. Let's do it. All right, welcome back, guys. Overview of bonds again. You ready? You want to remember bonds heavily tested? The more senses you engage when you study, the more likely it is you're going to remember this stuff. So it's not enough to watch it and read it. You got to put the pen to the paper and write it. So you're going to make flashcards with me right now. Get a piece of paper. Let's go. Get a pen. Write it down. You ready? Coupon divided by price. What if they tell you the bond sells for more than par value? Selling price is greater than the par. What do we know? The market rate is less than the coupon. Higher price in the denominator, market rate less than the coupon. Or if you know the market rate is less than the coupon, then you know your selling price is greater than par. Now, whenever the bond sells for more than par, that's good news to the issuer, the borrower. That's really a gain, okay? We're going to call it, though, the fancy term is an unamortized premium. We can't just immediately book it as a gain because that would violate the matching principles. So instead, the proceeds in excess of the face value is called an unamortized premium. The carrying value of the bond is the face plus that gain, that unamortized. amortized premium. There's your initial carrying value more than the face value. Now that gain is going to be recorded, amortized over the life of the bond, which I'll show you how to do, by making interest expense periodically less than the coupon paid. Alrighty? And remember, your market rate, which is your actual cost of borrowing, is less than the coupon. Okay? And we're going to see exactly how that works. Now, what if on the flip side, the bond is sold at a discounted price, coupon divided by a lower price? That means the market rate is what? Greater than the coupon rate. Or if they tell you the market rate is greater than the coupon, then you know your selling price in the denominator is lower than the face value. So if your selling price is less than par value, you wanted to borrow $1,000, but you only got $950 when you sold the bond, well, that's a loss. But we can't call it a loss. We want to charge a lot of money for our service. Is. So what's our code language for a loss? An unamortized and unrecorded loss, an unamortized discount. You take the face value of the bond minus what you sold it for, the difference between the two, that's your discount. Okay, so let's say the bond was sold for $970. Your discount's $30. Face value of $1,000 minus the $30 you didn't collect, your loss get you your initial carrying value of $970, okay? So that loss is going to be recorded over the life of the bond according to the matching principle. But we'll call it amortizing a discount. You'll see your interest expense will be greater than the coupon paid, alrighty? And that's because your market rate is greater than your coupon, your nominal, and your stated rate, alrighty? So that's step one, number one, write it down. What you write, you will remember. Not only should you write it, you should speak it next time you're on a date, which you shouldn't be doing. You're not dating anybody but me right now. But should you go out on a date, talk to them about bonds. All right. So again, the bond terms, we know it's a long-term liability. All right. Face value, though, we might sell it at face value, but maybe not. I don't know. So if we don't sell it at face value, if we sell it at a discount or a premium, then the carrying value of that liability has to be adjusted. Alrighty, so we'll adjust by taking the face value plus the premium. That'll get us the initial carrying value because the selling price was greater than the face, or face value minus the discount gets us that initial carrying value because we sold it for less than face value, okay? So amortized discounts are a loss. Bad news. We collected less than the face value. So what do we do with an unamortized discount? We subtract it from the face value. Conversely, an unamortized premium is really a gain. We thought we were going to sell the bond for $1,000. We got $1,050. What do we do with an unamortized premium? That gain, we add it to the face value to get that initial carrying value. Now, unless you're told otherwise, each bond is denominated in $1,000 increments. Now, bonds are quoted in the marketplace as a percentage of par value. So if they tell you, hey, a bond is trading at 97, well, that means it's trading at 97% of par. Selling price is 970, well, that's a loss. You wanted to borrow 1,000, they only gave you 970, but you're going to repay 1,000, but you only got 970, you have a loss, an unamortized discount of $30. There, okay? Initial carrying value would be 970. Face value, 1,000 minus the 30. Initial carrying value, 970. What if they tell you the bond sold at 102? Well, that's 102% of the face value. Take the 1,000 times 1.02. You were going to borrow 1,000. They give you 1,020. You got an extra $20. That's a gain. You're only going to repay 1,000. Even though you collected 1,020, when the selling price is greater than the face value, that's a gain, an unamortized premium. You take the face value of 1,000, add that unrecorded gain, that unamortized premium of 20. What's your initial carrying value? 1,020. At maturity, what do we always pay? We pay the face value. At maturity, whether you sell it at 1,000, 970, or 1,020, we're going to repay at maturity the face value. And when we're done amortizing any premium or discount, the carrying value will actually be the face value, okay, at maturity, and I'll show you how that's going to work. All right, so the coupon payment is based upon the face value times the coupon. Face times the coupon gets you the coupon payment. But the interest expense, no. That's the initial carrying value, beginning of each period, times that market rate. Now, the check that we write, alrighty, we want to find, well, you know what we're going to be writing every 6 months, we're going to be paying a coupon. When we find the selling price of that bond, we're going to need the present value factor for an ordinary annuity. Every coupon is exactly the same. It's paid every 6 months. We will have to find the present value factor for an ordinary annuity to find the present value of the coupon payments. And then, assuming all the principal is repaid at maturity, well, we're going to find the present value of that one-time payment using the present value factor of 1. That's how we're going to find the selling price of the bond. So now, a premium or a discount, the carrying value has got to be adjusted such that we add any unamortized premium to that face value, or we subtract any unamortized discount from that face value, okay? So the premium or discount, that accounts for the fact that, hey, the market rate is different from the coupon rate. If the market wants a rate higher than the coupon rate, what happens to the price? It gets discounted. If the market would be satisfied with a rate less than the coupon, well, then the bond sells at more than face value, okay? So a premium is really an unrecorded gain. It's an unamortized gain, okay? So it's simply a deferred gain. That gets added to the face value, and little by little, we will record that gain by making the interest expense less than the coupon paid. that adheres to the matching principle. You can't immediately take the 1,020 and say, hey, you know what? My bond payable is 1,000. I'll put that $20 in income, and then that increases equity. And you know what? I'll record all my gain upon the issuance of the bond. That violates the matching principle. So instead, that $20 unamortized premium, well, that will be allocated over the life of the bond, making the interest expense less than the coupon paid. If the bond sells at a discount, the market wants a rate higher than what we offered, well, then the price is discounted. Well, you know what? We can't record that loss immediately. Say, hey, I collected $970, my liability is $1,000, and then reduce equity by 30. You can't do that because that would violate the matching principle. So instead, we'll record that discount, amortize it over the life of the bond by making interest expense more than the coupon paid, because the market wanted a rate greater than the coupon. Okay, so good news is if the bond is issued at par, you don't have to use any present value factors. The selling price will equal the par value. Simple enough. If the bond is issued at a discount, when you do your present value calculations, you better get a selling price less than $1,000 a bond, or you did something wrong. If the bond sells at a premium, when you calculate the proceeds on sale, you better get an amount greater than $1,000 per bond, or you did something wrong, and that's your check figure, okay? So now we'll practice the present value factors again. It's a piece of cake. You're gonna love it. Don't do any questions yet. Come back, let's do another video, all right? I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back, baby. We are on a roll. Do you feel it? I'm feeling it, baby. Here we go. When bonds are issued at par value, what do we know? The selling price equals the face value. We don't need to do any present value factors, although we'll do it just to practice and prove that you're collecting the $1,000 per bond. But on the exam, if you see the coupon rate equals the market rate, bonds are issued at face value. Don't worry about any present value factors. Factors. The other thing is, when a bond is issued at par, since the market rate equals the coupon rate, that means your interest expense and your coupon payment are one and the same. That's the only time the interest expense on the income statement and the coupon paid in the statement of cash flow will be one and the same. Okay, so when you sell a bond, folks, your selling price is the sum of, number one, the present value of the principal. You're going to find the present value factor of 1 because the principal will be repaid one time at maturity. And then we have to add to that the present value of the coupon payments. For that, you're going to need the present value factor for an ordinary annuity. Most of the time with bonds, the coupons are paid twice a year, okay? Unless you're told otherwise, semi-annual convention, but it could be annual. We'll have to be careful, we'll read. So the price is simply the sum of the present value of the future principal plus the present value of all those coupon payments, okay? Both are discounted back using the prevailing market rate. That's the key. So when we use our present value factors, we're going to need our number of periods, which is generally going to be the life of the bond times 2, which really the number of coupon payments. If it's paying it semi-annually, if it's got a 10-year life, 10 times 2, 20 periods. And then when you find your present value factor, you take the market rate. Let's say the market rate is 8. 8 divided by 2, well then the periodic semi-annual market rate is 4. 4, and then you match that with the number of periods. We do not use the coupon rate to determine the present value factors. We don't. We use the market rate, folks, the market rate. The only thing we use the coupon rate for is to find the periodic coupon payment. The face value times the coupon, there's your periodic payment. And if it's paid semi-annually, you'll take the coupon divided by 2. But we always use the market rate, the effective rate, when we look up our present value factors, okay? Make sure you remember that. Write it down. Okay, so look, bonds issued at par, I know I'm collecting face value. What's the face value? Well, $1 million worth of bonds. Well, if the coupon rate equals the market rate, then I don't need to do any math. Alrighty, so they tell me the yield of the market rate is also 10%. Well, the coupon's 10, The market rate is 10. Well, then I'm going to collect $1 million. Dumb. We don't have to do any math. But, we want to practice this stuff because we love it. So let's pretend we have to do it. You ready? What's the term of the bonds? 5 years. Okay, stop right there. How often are we paying a coupon? Twice a year, June 30 and December 31st. So what's our number of periods? Step 1, 5 times 2, 10 periods. We're going to need that to get our present value factors. Okay, now take your market rate, and I know it's the same as the coupon, but bear with me. Take your market rate, 10% divided by 2. What's our periodic semi-annual market rate? 5%. So when I find my present value factors, I want 10 periods, 5%. All right, that's going to be what we need to find our present value factors. Now, what's our periodic coupon payment? $1 million times the coupon rate, 10% divided by 2. And I know that's the same as the market rate, but bear with me. $1 million times 10% divided by 2, $1 million times 5%, $50,000. Now let's find our present value factors. I want to find for my principal the present value of one-time payment in the future, 10 periods from now at 5%. So that would be a present value factor of 0.613913. Alrighty, so it's the market rate and the number of periods, not the life of the bond, the number of periods. 5 times 2 is 10. All right, and it's not the 10% annualized rate, it's the periodic rate. We need consistency. So, $1 million times the present value factor at 5% for 10 periods. Well, the present value of the principal, 613,913. Lots of 13s, but that's a lucky number for us right now. And then the present value factor for an ordinary annuity. That's for the coupon, $50,000 coupon payments. I want to find the present value of that. Again, 10 periods at 5%. What's the present value factor? 10 periods at 5%, 7.72. Multiply that by your periodic payment of $50,000. What's the present value of the coupon payments? $386,087. Add those two together. Better equal $1 million. Does the sum of the two equal $1 million? Yes, it does. So we're in good shape. So the selling price, $1 million. No gain, no loss. What does that mean? Since the coupon rate and the market rate were one and the same, selling price equals the face value. We didn't have to do any math, but we like this stuff, so we practiced it. All right, so here's just the visualization, all right? We have $50,000 payments being made 2 times a year. Every time we make a coupon payment, that's a cash outflow from operations. And since the market rate equals the coupon rate, our interest expense every 6 months is also $50,000. So on an annual basis, we're going to have a $100,000 coupon paid annually and $100,000 of interest expense annually. If you look at this in terms of a balance sheet, which is what I want you guys to get in the habit of doing, the selling price is your cash inflow. That's your financing inflow, $1 million. Liabilities plus equity. There's no change to equity. Even if we had a gain or loss, no change to equity because we have to amortize a gain or loss over the life of the bond. Here, the face value is $1 million. We don't have to add a premium. We don't have to subtract the discount. None of that. So the initial carrying value, though, folks, always has to equal the cash proceeds. So if you sell it for $1 million, then your initial carrying value also has to be what? $1 million. That will always be true. Whether you sell it at par, a discount, or a premium, your initial carrying value better equal the cash proceeds on sale. So always set up that balance sheet for me. Now, from the perspective of the corporation, the issuer, the borrower, they got cash, assets up. Now they owe that money someday. Liabilities up. Balance sheet is in balance. Okay, so they collect $1 million, they got a liability for $1 million. Now, what happens to the company's risk? Debt divided by equity. Debt just went up, no change to equity. What happens to this company's risk of financial distress, their solvency? They're riskier now because they borrowed this money. What if you're the bondholder, the lender, the investor? Well, it's the flip side of the coin. You now have an investment in bonds, your asset went up for $1 million, and cash went down by $1 million. So be careful. From the perspective of the bondholder, what's your change to assets? 0. No change to total assets, only a change in form. We're less liquid now. Rather than having $1 million in cash, instead we got this $1 million investment. So how does that affect the bondholder? Their current ratio, current assets went down. No change to current liabilities, but current assets, they don't have cash anymore, so their current ratio went down. Okay, so their short-term risk of distress just went up. Alrighty, not so bad, right? Keep going with me, man. We're not done yet. Let's bang out another video, man. All right, folks, we got a discount. What does that mean? The cash collected is less than the face value. So coupon divided by a less cash collected in the denominator, what does that mean? The market rate has got to be greater than the coupon rate. Whenever you see discount, don't think disco. What do you think? Discount? Hey, that's a loss. It's a deferred loss. So I'm borrowing $1,000, but I'm only collecting $970. You can't immediately record that as a loss on the income statement and reduce equity. You can't do that. Violate the matching principle. So instead, we will amortize, record that discount over the life of the bond by making the interest expense greater than the coupon. And remember, your market rate is going to be greater than your coupon rate. Okay, discount your selling price less than face value. So selling the bond, we saw this before. The proceeds on sale, how do we get that? We need our present value factors using what rate? The market rate. We need the present value factor, right? Number of periods using the periodic market rate. Present value of 1 to find the present value of the principal. Present value of an ordinary annuity to find the present value of the coupon payment. The discount is amortized, recorded over the life of the bond. If your interest expense is not greater than the coupon paid, you did something wrong. The interest expense is a function of what? Initial carrying value at the beginning of the period times the market rate. The coupon paid is the face value times the stated rate. So set up your balance sheet. Tell me what the proceeds on sale are. Better be less than 1,000. That your assets. Go up. Liabilities go up by the face value, but remember, your initial carrying value has to equal the selling price. So if the bond is sold at a discount, you're going to take the selling price minus whatever the discount is, the unamortized discount. That gets you your initial carrying value for that liability, and that better equal your selling price. minus whatever the discount is, the unamortized discount, that gets you your initial carrying value for that liability, and that better equal your selling price. All right, so we issued a 10% bond. Now, 10% is the stated rate. What's my market rate? Well, they tell me the yield was 12. Stop right there. Coupon divided by price. Coupon is 10, but the market rate is 12, higher than 10. So that means when I calculate the selling price, I better get something less than the face value. The face value here is $1 million. If I don't get something less than $1 million, I screwed up. All right, so they tell me the bond, 5-year life, but are we paying interest semi-annually? Yes, we are. So the number of periods, 5 times 2, 10. And then take your market rate, 12. Divide that by 2. What is my periodic market rate? 6. So when you find your present value factors, we need 10 periods, and we need a rate of 6%. Alrighty, so we want to find the present value of the principal. So the present value, 6%, 10 periods. Present value of 1. That finds you the present value of the principal. The factor is 0.55 and change. Multiply that by $1 million. What's the present value of the principal? 558, 395. Now, to find the present value of the coupon payments, what's my coupon payment? $1 million times the 10% divided by 2. $1 million times 5%, $50,000. Notice, no difference whether the bond sells at par, premium, or discount, right? The coupon payment is always the face value times that stated rate, that nominal rate. So now I got to find the present value of an ordinary annuity because we're going to make 10 payments of $50,000. What rate do we always use when we go to the present value factor? We always use the market rate. 12 divided by 2, present value factor of an ordinary annuity, 6%, 10 periods, that's 7.36. Multiply that by $50,000. What's the present value of your coupon payments? $368 and $4. $368,004. Add that to the present value of the principal. What's the sum? $926,399. Now stop and think. Does that make sense? You bet it does. We were anticipating selling it for less than $1 million. So I think I'm good. Alrighty. Now, set up your balance sheet. You ready? So your periodic payments, no change. $50,000 every 6 months, right? For the next 5 years. 10 coupon payments, that's an operating outflow on the statement of cash flow. Now set up your balance sheet. Assets are going to go up by your selling price. $926,399, that's a financing inflow. No change to equity. Liabilities have to go up then by $926,399. Take your face value, $1 million. Now what's the difference between $1 million and $926,399? That's your unamortized discount, your loss of $73,601. You subtract that from the face value, obviously, to get your initial carrying value of $926,399. Now notice something. I told you earlier, we always repay at maturity the face value. So little by little, over the life of this bond, while my initial carrying value is $926,399, what's going to happen to that carrying value over time as we get closer to maturity? It's going to go up. So as we subtract a smaller and smaller unamortized discount, as we amortize it, as we record it, which I'll show you how to do later, as you subtract a smaller and smaller unrecorded discount, that carrying value slowly but surely gets pulled up towards par over time, okay? So that's bonds issued at a discount. Now, journal entries, the issuer, the corporation, the borrower. You can only debit cash for $926,399. That's all you got. Now, you know you got to credit your bond payable for $1 million. What's the difference between the two? Oh, yeah, that's your plug figure, your debit. We have a discount on bonds payable. Now, that's a contra liability. It's got a debit balance. It takes our face value, $1 million, and then we subtract that unamortized discount to get to our carrying value. So the discount has a debit balance. It's a contra liability such that the face value then matches the initial cash proceeds of $926,399, okay? Now, from the perspective of the investor, the lender, the bondholder, they debit investment in bonds, but only $926,399. That's what they paid for it, and they credit cash for $926,399. Again, they're less liquid, alrighty? So total assets for the bondholder doesn't change. It only changed form. Rather than having cash, they have this bond instead. Alrighty, keep going with me. We're not done yet. Keep going with me. Let's do it. Another one. Let's go, baby.